Hey everyone, welcome to Virtual Vegfest Live. This is Helene, and it's Sunday. Happy Father's Day to everybody who is a dad in some form or some way, in some manner. I actually don't care what kind of dad you are. If you are a mom that's a dad to parent, to pets, humans, any animal on the planet, if that's your role, then enjoy your day. Enjoy every day, not just today, of course, but it is Father's Day. And of course, it's June, so it's Pride Month. And I decided to change the logo to our rainbow logo for our rest of the month. So happy Pride as well. And of course, Juneteenth was yesterday. Big supporters of Black Lives Matter. So if you celebrated Juneteenth, of course, it's a federal holiday now in the United States, which is fantastic. So that's so many things in one week. Also, cut my hair. Gone. Did it this week. Very happy. It was time. So no more hair. Have it downstairs. It's like long. So we got rid of that. So let's thank Orgain for sponsoring our lives this month. You can go to Orgain.com and support them. They send us stuff for our goodie bags, and we absolutely love them. And then, of course, if you want to win prizes from Hodo Foods, Orgain, Follow Your Heart, Crafters Organics, Cinnaholic, and Shrew Meats, you want to go to virtualvegfest.com and click the contest tab and enter to win in our wish pond. And one of the ways you can do that is to subscribe to Virtual Vegfest on YouTube, which is 25 entries. And you can win one of those awesome 6 prize packs. The only caveat for Cinnaholic is you need to live within 50 miles of one. Now, we went to Cinnaholic in Knoxville, Tennessee recently while we were on the road. Oh my gosh, if you haven't been, you need to go. It was it was decadent. It's not a everyday thing. Well, you shouldn't, because you'll be like 1,000 pounds and really unhealthy because it's not the healthiest food in the world, but it is all vegan. So definitely try it. Cooking demo today with Brigitte over on the west coast of in Canada, actually, in Vancouver. This is gonna be really interesting because if you're the type of person who says I don't have time to make food, cook, prep, she's going to prove you wrong. She's going to show you how to do a bunch of things from quinoa to pizza over the course of an hour. Now I'm taking up her time, so let's go and talk for a few minutes before we start. Hey, how are you?
Hey, good to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. There's even more stuff in front of you than when I left you.
You can't leave me alone in the kitchen for more than a minute or two, eh?
Yeah, it actually looks incredible. I see eggplant and carrots and red peppers and looks like zucchini all in front of
Yeah.
you. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but first thing I want you to do is tell us who you are and what Vegan Family Kitchen is, and then let's just start cooking.
Awesome. I can do both at the same time. So this is my vegan family kitchen right back here, and what I do for people is decide what's for dinner. Because really, the worst thing about cooking, it's not doing the dishes; it's deciding what you're going to make. Especially, I think for people who are new to plant-based cooking, or for people who have been around plant-based cooking for a long time and who are getting a little bit stuck in a rut. And so at Vegan Family Kitchen, I'm really focused on helping people doing good habits like meal planning and batch cooking so that when you're on a Wednesday night, the part of you that's a little bit tired and feels like speed dialing, pizza or something, instead has really good options available in the fridge already, not necessarily fully made, but at least halfway there so that you just need a little push and a downhill into having dinner ready for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I'm super excited for people to see this. And if you have any questions or comments, please write them in the little box. We will definitely address them. When it comes to cooking, this always influences what I'm going to make for dinner, and I'm going to move myself into the corner so you are fully looking at Brigitte and everything that
Awesome.
she's doing.
So, what we're doing today is a lot of things. And surprise, I have shifted the quinoa to millet instead, just because my husband said, I like millet. Why don't you make millet? I'm like, okay, because all the food I make here, we have to eat this week. Okay, so what we're going to do today is millet, which is a whole grain, and that we're going to cook ahead of time. And that's the kind of thing you don't do on a weeknight because it takes kind of a while to get it going and to cook it. And I'll show you my super easy way to do it without measuring anything at all. And then we're going to make roasted vegetables. So I've cheated. I've started boiling the water. Actually, I forgot to put it back on. So that's the first thing. I'm turning on a big pot here that has water in it. There's about this much water, okay, in my big pot, and that will be for cooking the millet. I have started the oven on 375, and that will be for roasting vegetables. So that's the second thing. Since I'm going to be chopping anyway, why don't just, make the most of my time and also make a soup. So I'm going to make something kind of like a minestrone soup over here, and it will have a bit of everything, different veggies, and also chickpeas in it. I've decided on chickpeas. While the soup is simmering and the vegetables are roasting and the millet is cooking, I will be making a pesto. And because we're busy people, right, I am not going to make pesto with a mortar and pestle. That's where the word pesto comes. It's from the pestle, but I'm not doing that today. I'm just going to do a super simple pesto based on boxed green. And I forgot to go up front in my garden to get some like basil and stuff, but if you have any herbs, you could also use them in the pesto. And finally, I'm going to do something super fun, which is make pizza dough. And pizza, as I was mentioning, speed dialing the pizza place. It's a pity that we don't make more pizza at home because it's really not that hard. And it's delicious and it's way healthier than the stuff we get at the store. Even if you add a bit of like vegan processed cheese on it, which you don't have to. I personally prefer a drizzle of cashew cream or something like that. But even if you use a processed vegan cheese, it still makes some fabulous pizza. So here's the deal that what I'm going, and I have a little sheet here that I'm going to try to follow that has my order of business for today, and I'm actually testing this to see how it goes, and I'm going to make it available on my website for people to try if they want to with the shopping list. But really, you don't need a shopping list because largely this is based on number one, pantry ingredients, and number two, what looks good at the farmer's market or in the produce aisle at the grocery store. So this is not meant to be the kind of thing that you need to shop for. If you have millet at home, well, sure, use millet, but if you have quinoa, if you have farro, if you have brown rice, that's also good. So back to the first step. Here we have the water that's going to boil. I'm cooking the millet as I would cook pasta. I'm not measuring the ratios. The downside is that it takes a little longer to bring the water to a boil, but the upside is that I don't need to mind it quite as tightly as I would if I was cooking with, more of a steaming style and exact ratio. So that's on the go. The oven is warming up. This big pot here is warming up for the soup, and the pesto and the pizza dough we'll deal with toward the end. And it is, in Vancouver, 1:08, so timer's on. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to be super efficient, showing off a little bit, I'm going to make the veggies in a reverse order that I will put them in the pot. So when you make soup, you always want to start with the onion first, and if you're using celery or carrots, you would put that in next, and then you would put in some lighter vegetables. In this case, I'm going to start by chopping those vegetables that don't have to cook for quite as long, and I'm going to have them in my pot here so that I can just kind of add them in here when my pot is warm enough. And I don't use this hot plate very often, so I hope I don't burn anything. If the house goes on fire, please call 911 for me, okay? So I'll start with the zucchini. I have two, and I will chop them both to, one will be in this bowl here for roasting, and one will go in this bowl here for the soup, okay? And I can hear behind me cooking. It's about what we smell and what we taste, yeah, but when you're cooking, it's also about what you hear. And the other day I was in the living room, my husband was cooking dinner, and I was like, I think your water's boiling. And he was like, what? And I was like, I can hear it, or I can hear the noise of different things as they cook, and you get used to it, and you get more adept at recognizing when it's, at multitasking, the more you pay attention to your senses, which means you shouldn't have your phone on the kitchen counter. First of all, your phone is super dirty, okay, so don't bring it to the kitchen. But mostly it's robbing your attention away from the most important task, which is feeding yourself really good food without chopping off your fingers. Okay, very, very important. Another important lesson when you do this sort of stuff is that don't throw zucchini at your computer. That's a lesson. Another lesson, though, is that, you know what, knife skills, I don't want to say they're overrated, because it's important to be able to use a knife without cutting your hands and kind of fast enough. But it doesn't need to look like it looks like in a Michelin-starred restaurant, right? So even my pieces are not exactly the same. So what? Okay, so living with imperfection is a big part of cooking fast, making really good food. So I can hear the water boiling. I have here, I don't know, about, so I don't want to spill, about 1.25 cups millet. I'm going to put it in the boiling water. So I just dump it in and give it a good stir. So I give a stir so it doesn't stick to the bottom. There we go. And I'm going to set a timer. Let's say 23 minutes. Okay? That should be about right. You know, millet is quite forgiving. It's not like it's going to be extra mush if I wait a little longer. So it's not the end of the world. But basically what I'm going to do is just stir it once in a while. And then once it's been 22 minutes, I will taste it and make sure it's not gritty anymore. Okay, and if that's the case, then that'll be good enough for me. What's this button? I can smell the pot, and that means it's getting a little too hot. Okay, so I'm going to turn it down. And I'm going, because the pot is hot, I'm going to put in some carrots. If you have picky eaters, or if you are a picky eater, well, maybe you want to cook your veggies in a way that they don't touch. That you give people the choice of what roasted veggies you're going to have. But in my case, I love all the veggies, so does my husband. My kids will pick their way through it, but they're not going to be too fussy about the pieces of veggies touching. So I have 2 red onions here. And for the roasting, I'm just making kind of these chunks of onion here that I'm throwing in with the zucchini and eggplant. And all the things we can do with roasted vegetables, it's just amazing. In the week, you know, we can make bowls using that millet that I'm making right now. We can make pasta. If you look at my website on veganfamilykitchen.com, in the recipes section, there's a recipe, or rather an explanation on how to make instant sauces. And instant sauce is what saves my butt on Friday nights when I'm super hungry. I don't really have anything super ready. And I make a sauce out of just a few nuts or seeds or hummus. It's just an amazing way to eat. And you throw in some roasted vegetables with that, and you have a really, really good dinner that you would pay $1 million for in a restaurant, because veggies really take a bit of time, right? And restaurants like us like to not spend too much time, and when they spend time, they charge you money. So it's not just the cost of the ingredients, it's the cost of the veggies. But if you're smart, you're doing your prep in an organized way and you don't have that problem. Okay, so you can put that in pasta, you can make paninis with your roasted vegetables and also with the pesto that we're going to make at the end, and you can have a side soup and then you have a whole meal. I'm going to put these in here. There goes the onion for the soup. And what else can you do with roasted vegetables? If you have suggestions, of course, you can put them in the chat. And of course, you can make pizza. Yes, so that's what I made for my husband's Father's Day dinner. Is we had some lovely homemade pizza. As you can see here, I'm not using oil in the pot for the soup, but I am putting in a pinch of salt. The salt breaks down the molecular structure of the cell walls of the onions, and it makes the onions sweat a little faster, and so there's a little bit of extra liquid at the bottom of the pot, and it helps with preventing sticking. Okay, so I'm just going to add more onions. The pot, I think, is at the right temperature, which is kind of a medium lowish. I don't want to burn anything. So, you know, my onion is not picture perfect, but like, when was the last time you took a ruler to measure the size of the pieces of onion in your soup? I never do that. If you do that, you're a weirdo, and maybe you shouldn't eat my soup. Okay, so there we go. This is on the go. I'm just going to stir the millet, and it's fine. It's not sticking, so we can just leave it alone. It's going at a like active simmer. Okay, nothing too nonsensical. So in the soup pot here, I'm going to add my carrots, and carrots together with onion and celery form the trifecta that people in different cultures call a different name, but basically it's what gives flavor. And carrots is really something that's worth investing in. I don't mean that you should pay your mortgage equivalent on your carrots, but we find that the carrots from the farmer's market, especially at this time of year, are just amazing. So it's worth paying a little bit of extra money for super nice sweet carrots. Otherwise, sometimes you get those like starchy carrots. What I did, saving time and really saving on waste, I just brush them clean. I don't peel the carrots. I think that's super wasteful and completely unnecessary. I just make sure they're clean, which is the case most of the time, but give them a little bit of a brush, and that's good enough. Okay, let's add some more carrots. The other thing that's worth investing in, and leave it because it's investing in your health, is some good red onions. Okay, the red onions, unlike the yellow ones, have the purple skin, and that means they have more nutrients, more phytonutrients that are not only cancer fighting, but also antioxidants that help prevent aging. And they just taste so good, right? I find that when you buy cheap onions, they don't taste like much. Okay, so I'm adding some onions to my other bowl. Here, that's my oven saying, hey lady, I'm ready. So, chopping some carrots in that same bowl. So those half moons, they don't look like spectacular, but they look fine. More carrots in the soup. So the other veggie, yeah, you would add celery if you wanted to have the typical trio of seasonings that for savory soups and stuff. I just didn't find fresh celery yesterday at the farmer's market, so we're not having it today. That's okay. We can all try a little bit. And another good thing to have is a good knife. Okay, and you missed out at the beginning, but when Hélène was introducing the podcast, the show, I was sharpening my knife, just not sharpening, but just honing it a bit. I actually had them professionally sharpened with some edges redone about 3 weeks ago, and it makes a world of difference. Even a knife that you think is like not a great knife, you might be actually surprised that it just needs sharpening. Okay, so take it there and then hone it at home every couple of days maybe, or every time you have a good big batch cooking session, and it just goes so much better. Also, a good wood cutting board, and I just noticed now that you can't see my cutting board anymore on the screen. Can you see my cutting board today?
I can definitely see your cutting board.
Oh, you can. Awesome. Okay.
Oh yeah, we see everything all the way to the red peppers.
Wonderful. Okay. And you haven't seen me cut my finger.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Splendid. Okay, so here for the roasted vegetables, I do use a smidgen of oil, and by that I mean a real smidgen. I'll even measure it for you. Here, I'll put 2 teaspoons. So if you read a cookbook from a serious restaurant kind of thing, they use a lot more oil than this. I don't think that's necessary, but I like to have just a little bit. It really profoundly enhances the taste of the veggies. It makes a world of difference, okay? And lots of fresh pepper. And just because we're on the topic of nutrition, I'm going to add a little bit of turmeric. Don't have to do that, but my husband always asks me, did you put turmeric in this? Because turmeric is a super powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory as well. especially if combined with pepper. If you don't put the pepper in, it doesn't do a whole lot, but if you add the pepper, absorption is boosted by like 6,000%. So it's worth it. I'm just going to spread this. So my bowl is
Okay.
becoming a little bit full here.
So Patricia asked, like, "Good afternoon. What are you making?" And Patricia, it's more what are we not making today, as opposed to what are we making. There's soup, there's millet, there's roasted vegetables, and pesto and pizza dough are coming. So there's a bit of everything today, Patricia. And thanks again for joining us.
But this is really the base. You know, on a normal weekend, if I was not doing this live cooking demo here, and if I had a couple of hours, I would do a little bit more of an involved batch cooking session where I would do more different things. But this is really intended for the super busy, okay? And for people who also will be busy in the weeknights or also covering for lunches. It really is the basic building blocks of a healthy plant-based diet. So some, a lot of vegetables, some whole grains, kind of a saucy thing. So that's the pesto for today. But if it was not the pesto, maybe I would be making hummus. Because when you buy hummus at the store, like sometimes they're really, really oily and really salty. So I like making my own. And so all of these components you keep in the fridge, in those, kind of Tupperware. I like the glass ones better because I like putting away my food when it's hot, and I don't want to do that in plastic. And throughout the week, you can just mix and match, right? And it makes a world of difference to have those things ready. It does involve learning a little bit about the basics of combining plant ingredients to make meals. But really, the worst thing that can happen is that you just eat pine millet and roasted vegetables, which is really a nice thing to do. Okay, so I had too many veggies over there, so I just put some here in my bowl. Put some away on the lined baking sheet. How are we doing for time? It's 23. Okay, we're doing awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to add these guys here to my other baking sheet and put them in the oven because the roasted vegetables, I think 30 minutes for diced veggies is about right.
Patricia also said it all sounds yummy.
Yeah, I'm really glad I'm doing this because it will be nice to eat throughout the week. There we go. So 30 minutes, okay, I won't set a timer because it will go deep and that's kind of annoying. But when we're done with the show, the veggies will be done. We'll just have to put them away. Another good thing about doing batch prep like this is that there's fewer dishes to wash in the end. And you kind of batch it so you don't live throughout the week with piles of dishes. That can be really discouraging. Like you get in the kitchen and you see all the dirty dishes and you're like, I don't want to add to that, right? So having the batch cooking done and doing it in a meaningful order is really helpful. And I'll give you an example in the vegan meal plan. So for my clients, I have this subscription service called the Vegan Meal Plans, and every 2 weeks they get a set of recipes and prep steps that they have to do on the weekend so that they can have like really easy and not too stressful weeknights. I don't say that it's not stressful weeknights because there's no such thing really. Anyway, if you have a family, definitely. And so there goes a pepper. And for example, if you're doing a prep session, and in your prep session there's, I don't know, cashew cream, okay, that you want to use, and also pesto. Well, if you make the cashew cream first in the blender, you don't need to spend 10 minutes scraping the blender until it's perfectly clean, or to wash it even. You just make the pesto, and some of the cashew cream will go in the pesto, but that's
It's okay.
because it's really delicious, right? So here we go. Now I'm going to add, I think this is eggplant and zucchini, right? Let's add that in.
Yeah.
And one last thing very important, good garlic. Okay, guys, do not buy packages of 1,000 garlic cloves pre-peeled from China. I know it's a big thing on the market, even on the East Coast now. Of course, in Vancouver, we get more of that, being closer. But please don't do that, because fresh garlic makes a world of difference. And I don't know if there's been a study about it, but I'm pretty sure it's also healthier in the sense that it's just fresher, right? So it hasn't been sitting. It's not that because it comes from China, it's not healthy. That's not the point. But it's been sitting in a container for who knows how long before it was, brought to your kitchen. So do yourself a favor and just, get good fresh garlic from a local grower as much as possible. And then you just cut the two ends of the clove, and then you put your knife on it, smash. And it half smashes the garlic, and it makes it super easy to remove the peel. If you have a lot, you could also put them in a container and shake it, but I'm not going to do that on live television, right? Okay, a little bit more. There we go.
Well, you've got some love coming your way, just so you know. So Marion says
Awesome.
she subscribes to your meal plans and highly recommends them. And Daniel says that Brigitte and Vegan Family Kitchen is our go-to vegan recipe source. She creates full flavor meals, no sacrifice in taste to go vegan.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Marianne, for being here. I really appreciate it. I need to say, while we're here, that first of all, I have an interview coming online very soon with Daniel in his YouTube channel. It's called Aging with Freedom, and it's really intended for people who want to have the best time in their life in the third act. Is that how you say it? And Marianne has a really cool podcast called The Plant-Based Briefing, and it's only 10 minutes per day. And when you listen to it, you're smarter at the end, which is really cool. So I like that a lot. Plant-based briefing. And so here, I'll just show you. This is a bit hot. So this is what the veggies look like right now. Okay, so there's a lot of veggies in here. About half the pot is full of veggies. And they've been cooking for a bit. I haven't looked at my order of business for a while, so I hope I'm not too far off, but I think it's good. So I'm going to add a lot of garlic here. And the rest of the garlic I will keep for adding to the roasted vegetables in the last few minutes. I hope I remember. Okay, if I don't remember, please remind me.
I will try my best.
Thank you.
How long
That's why you're
how
here.
long are the
My
veggies cooking
staff
for?
there. I'm sorry?
How long are the veggies cooking for?
In the oven?
Yeah, 30
About,
minutes, right?
yeah, 30 minutes is about right. If the bigger the pieces, the longer it has to cook. When I roast
Okay.
whole beets, I put them in this pot with the lid on and a bit of water at the bottom, and it takes like a solid hour for the beets to be completely cooked. But we're talking like a baseball-sized beet. But those little pieces that I put in, I think 25 minutes should be plenty.
And when do you want to put the garlic in?
Um,
5 minutes
yeah, really
left?
last 5 minutes kind of thing. Normally, what I would
Okay.
have done if I had been smarter would have been putting whole cloves with the rest of the veggies, and then they would have roasted, and I would have just smashed them at the end. But that's kind of for a fancy day. The other thing that's a good thing to do, if there's anybody here who's a fan of Dr. Michael Greger and his How Not to Die and How Not to Diet duo of books and cooking approaches, one of the things he suggests is the hack and hold. I think there's a nicer word for that, but basically you chop the garlic at least 10 minutes ahead. And while it is resting on your cutting board, it's developing a lot of really healthy chemicals, natural chemicals within it that are had really strong cancer fighting properties. So whenever I can, I actually chop the garlic first, and I leave it in the corner. I don't put it in the pot right away because I like to have my garlic not burn. So I really wait until toward the end of just before I add the liquid, and that makes a big difference. Okay, roasted vegetables, tick. Millet, tick. So the soup here, what I'm going to do now is deglaze the pot. So deglazing the pot is how we take back what's most important in here, which is all the caramelized sugars from the vegetables. Like even onions are full of sugar. okay? And those sugars often cook on the bottom of the pot and they form that little brown crust. You don't want to burn them, but it's okay if they brown a little bit. And that is really nice. Some people, unfortunately, leave them in the pot and then they have to scrape them off when it's time to do the dishes. Do not be that person. Okay, you want to be the person who keeps the sugars in the soup or in the curry or the chili or whatever it is you're making. And that's why I use a deglazing liquid. Really, you could use water, but it's nice to do it with lemon juice or lime juice, apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, beer, whatever fits the dish that you're making. Wine is a common one. And so you put the cold liquid in the pot and it sizzles and steams off right away when it hits the hot bottom of the pot, and it detaches or releases a little bit of those caramelized bits. You need a nice spatula like this with a flat end, and you scrape the bottom. And the nice sugars go in your food and then inside your tummy, not in the carburetor. That's the way to do it, and it also makes it easier to clean the pots and pans after the fact. So here I have, so what you see here, they're actually lemon cubes. Again, a Dr. Greger tip. Dr. Greger suggests just peeling the lemons, putting them in the blender, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 lemons. You remove the seeds as much as possible, and you remove the peel because it's really quite bitter. But you put everything in the blender, and it creates a lemon smoothie, you could say, that has the fiber, not just the juice of the lemon, but also the fiber. And it's kind of, you know, in a rush. I use bottled lemon juice like everybody else. But when I do find, inexpensive, nice lemons, I put them in a blender. I make those little cubes of lemon juice, and that's what I'm going to use for deglazing. But before I do that, I'm going to add some extra spices to my soup. So first, lots of pepper. Cumin, we really love cumin in this house. 2 cumin. I'm going to add smoked paprika. Not a whole lot, because I don't think it suits the soup really well. But my daughter always asks, Mom, is there paprika in this? And I say, yeah. And she's like, oh, good, because she likes paprika. Go figure. So every opportunity is an opportunity to add paprika, turmeric, and remember, we're busy people. So I'm not making broth from scratch this week. Actually, I'm never making broth from scratch. I don't have time for that. So this is a local brand. I don't know what you have in the States, but find a nice tasting broth that doesn't have too much salt or none at all, if that's your thing. And I add the powder. In this case, it's 1 teaspoon of powder for each 2 cups of hot water. And just before the show, I boil the water. Okay, so I have 4 cups of hot water here. And we just scrape the bottom, help the spices start browning a bit. And I'm sorry I can't show you this, but you have to imagine the very cold lemon juice sizzling the bottom and letting you release the sweet nature of all those beautiful vegetables. And in addition, I'm going to add the hot water. That's my first 4 cups. I'll add another 2. There we go. I love these measuring cups. They're made of silicone. You can kind of squeeze them.
Oh, nice.
They have a nice pouring spout. Here we go. So I scrape the bottom. So now there's about this much left at the top of my pot here. It's super heavy and hot. And I'm adding the chickpeas. So these are just home-cooked chickpeas, but you could add a can of chickpeas. What is that for again? That's the millet.
That's the millet. Yep. That's your 23
That's the
millet.
millet.
23-minute millet.
There you go. So we're going to taste the millet while this little guy here, I'm increasing the temperature a bit. So in about 20 minutes, this will be done completely. So we don't need to worry about it for now. Let's taste the millet. Oh, I think it's nicely done. A+. Okay, so I've turned off the heat. Here's what I'm going to do. This is the most dangerous maneuver of this whole demo. So this is my best friend. This is the only thing in my kitchen other than maybe a good knife, that is completely irreplaceable. It is a fine mesh metal sieve. There's nothing else that I can use to do the same job. There's no hack that I have. So it's metal because it's always very hot. So what I'm going to do is drain the content of my pot through here, and I'm very quickly going to return the hot millet into the hot pot, put the lid on, and just leave it to do its thing. It's going to steam off into a nice fluffy millet. This is the same technique you want to do with brown rice. You don't want to cook brown rice with just the right amount of water because it does have just a bit too much arsenic for comfort, whereas cooking it this way makes it safer. Here we go. I'm letting just most of the water, but the better is the enemy of the good here. The point is mostly to remove like 96% of the water, not 100, okay? Sorry for banging, pop, pop, pop. So it's off, the element is off, but the pot is still hot, obviously with residual heat, and it's just going to finish its thing. So you know what, millet, done, okay? So in 15 minutes, I fluff it with a fork, transfer it to a nice container, and I'll be done. It is currently 1:37 in Vancouver, and I just found a chickpea. So I put it in my mouth. Okay. So the next thing we'll do here, I'll increase the temperature on the soup a bit, and we're going to move to making pesto. Okay. So pesto is one of those things that is very unfortunately not vegan 98% of the time if you buy it from a big brand at the store, because it will be containing Parmesan cheese. And Parmesan cheese not only is not vegan, it's not even vegetarian because it is made with the lining of the stomach of calves. Is that right? Anyway, it's gross. Don't do that. Don't buy normal Parmesan. It's really unfortunate because it's pretty tasty, but it's really not something that you should consider food anymore. So instead, you can make your own pesto, and it will have no saturated fat and no cholesterol and no baby cow stomach in it. Okay? What we do here, because we are busy people, I'm using Earthbound Farm. I think that's in California, right? Greens, they're pre-washed 3 times. Good enough for me. I'm busy. Okay? So I'm just putting them in my blender like this. Okay? That's the first thing I do, and that unfortunately goes in the recycling. If you have nice greens from the farmer's market, more power to you, but I don't. For today. Okay. What else do we need in there? We need lemon juice. I need some more of those cute little cubes. Let me get them. I'll give you another tip about those little things. So each one here is a bit over a tablespoon, so I have 3. Just going to plug them in. It's like a spinach smoothie. If you make those, you can also use them when you make homemade hummus. And the big event is that if you put iced anything, so it can be iced water or iced lemon juice in your hummus, it makes the smoothest hummus ever. I don't know why. I discovered that by accident because I put these in, and then like the following week, I Googled it and I found out that it was a thing that you can put ice cubes or iced lemon pulp inside your hummus, and it really transforms the texture completely. Because previously, the trick I knew for making really smooth hummus was removing the little skins from the chickpeas. And first of all, the chickpeas find it really embarrassing to be naked. And I don't know if it's humane to remove the skin of chickpeas, but also it takes a bloody long time. And the only way to do it is if you have children who can be, doing it for you, but usually they do like 10, and then they're like, okay, bye, mom. So that did not work. And so instead of doing that, you can have really smooth hummus by leaving the skins on, but putting in ice cubes. The other thing is you don't even need olive oil. I mean, olive oil will obviously increase the taste, but it's not necessary. And if you really want to have a little olive oil, well, we can put like 2 teaspoons, but don't put a quarter cup, okay? So same thing here in the pesto, I'm actually going to put no oil at all, okay? And my recipe here said garlic powder. The reason for that being that the pesto stays in the fridge for a few days, and I find that if I'm using raw garlic, the raw garlic becomes really pungent after a few days and less tempting. Some people don't care, but I do. Whereas the garlic powder doesn't have that problem. So that's about a teaspoon of garlic powder. As we said, normally pesto has cheese in it, so we're not going to do cheese, obviously. We are going to add nutritional yeast. I know some people eat this stuff by the spoon. Not me, I mean, it's okay, but I'm not like a super duper excited fan. So I put 2 tablespoons, roughly, in here. And what else would I put in there? Lots of fresh ground pepper. That's what I wrote at. I will put a little bit of salt. And salt. And this will probably require a little bit of water to get it going. I just discovered in my sink I have kale. So I will probably add the kale leaves to the soup a little later. Okay? It's good to have things out sometimes. So now you have to go like this because I'm going to run the blender. After I do this first step, so I'm going to make the leaf concoction perfectly smooth. And then I will add some walnuts, and I will just pulse a little bit because I don't want my pesto to be completely like smooth and runny like a cream. I want it to be with a little bit of texture. Okay, so block your ears. I'm just going to use the damper. There we go. This is not the day when the blender will explode and make my whole kitchen green. Okay. All right, let's do this. It's the wrong tamper. I have a different blender jar, smaller. This is the right tamper. There we go.
That really matters. That they're having the right temper really matters.
Yes, you don't want it to be too long because that can cause a very big disaster. So I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of water here. There we go. And it's kind of silly to have all that blender full of greens, and now, you know, I have only this much, right? But that's life, and it's going to be very tasty, especially once we add the walnuts. Okay? And if you can find walnut pieces instead of whole walnuts, they're usually cheaper. Okay? So that's a bonus because really once you put them in the blender, it does not matter. So again, if I had been planning a little bit more ahead, I would, you know what, I think I may have cilantro in the fridge. That would also be amazing. Basil, parsley, anything you have, if it's green, you put it in. If what you have is dandelion greens or mizuna or carrot tops, you can do that with carrot tops. I recommend just quickly blanching them in boiling water first. But we're super busy people, so we don't have time for that today. Okay? I'm just going to blend this a wee little bit more. Mason jar, blender, pesto done. Here we go, the soup. Yeah, I overestimated the capacity of my thing here. The soup is still merely simmering, so I will have to keep on cooking while I'm doing the dishes, but you get the picture. And also,
Oh,
I
fun.
love you, Mr. Funnel. Funnel prevent messes. Messes take a long time to fix, okay? So you don't want to make a mess. That's the key. Another key to a quick meal prep session is to have a kitchen that's reasonably organized. Okay, so always starting with a clean kitchen, putting away the dirty dishes. Well, washing them first is a good idea. And even if you put them dirty in the dishwasher and forget about them for now, that's all right. Okay. So here I have pesto. This pesto for me will be used tonight for Father's Day. We're having some very good butcher burgers. Very Good Butchers is a local to me company. Okay, so I'm going to enjoy their burgers, and I will put some pesto in the burger, so it's like having a salad inside the burger. Okay, it's nice, and it's not. You can tell here, it's not completely homogeneous. It's got some nice chunks in it, so that's my favorite kind of pesto. Okay, what else is next? Pizza. Hey people,
Pizza.
we're doing well here. Hey, so Vitamix, if you don't have one, that's the one thing that's worth investing in a vegan kitchen, really. All the other gadgets like air fryer, instant pot, to me, all of those are like way down the list. Vitamix is on top. It's a perfect vegan enabler. It allows me to eat so many more veggies, to use leftovers, to turn them into sauces. Again, I refer to that blog post about instant sauces on veganfamilykitchen.com in the recipes section. But it also allows me to make things like cashew cream or nut cream and all those really delicious things. I love to make also golden milk, which is I just boil some water. I had a handful of cashews in the blender. I splurged on this like stainless steel Vitamix container, but you don't have to. But I like it to use with hot things. A chunk of ginger, some more turmeric, a little bit of fresh pepper, and maybe a date without the pit. And it makes a really, really delicious drink that will save your legs after a long run. If you're a runner or a weightlifter, it's really good to have the ginger to help with the inflammation. So warmly recommended. What about
Garlic.
I check the veggies?
Yes, you want to add the
Oh, the
garlic.
garlic. Very good.
Yep.
You're awesome. Oh, it's hot in here. Okay. I'm just going to. Okay, so these are the veggies. I'm not going to take them out just yet. I'm just going to flip them around a bit. Sorry for the noise. So here's the garlic. Thank you for the reminder. I'm just going to move these a bit. If you don't, really, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'll put them back in the oven. So bottom layer now. These guys, just move them a little bit. There we go. So I've traded spots. Getting fun in here. Whew. Okay, so I'll just set a timer for 10 minutes or 9 minutes so that we do it before the end of the show. So, perfect. Next thing we have to do is pizza dough. And what we're going to do here is the cold fermentation method, which means that there's no kneading up front. We're just mixing things together. And I'm going to mix things together. I'll rinse this bowl really quick. Okay, so the key to pizza is yeast, right? Can't do it without the yeast. But if you make pizza like every 6 months at home and you haven't been like in the baking, or if you did baking when it was crazy in March and April of 2020 and you haven't done any since, please check your yeast. And what I'm using here, it's just a coincidence, is Quick Rise Fleischmann yeast, but those little envelopes are fine. And frankly, the not Quick Rise is perfectly suitable for this application as well. Okay? What we need to do is proof the yeast. That means have living proof that the yeast is alive and kicking. If you don't do that, you might find yourself with dead yeast that will not do those little yeast burps and farts that are so cute that allow the pizza dough to rise. Okay, so that's really, really important. So what I do for that, if you don't have old pipes in your kitchen, you can use hot water from the tap, and it has to be like baby bottle hot. Not so hot that it burns your wrist, but not too cold, because if it's completely cold, then you won't have the proof that you need. Okay? So,
Sugar.
flour. A little smidge of sugar. Okay, so what I've got here is 1 1/4 cup water. I'm going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast and a teaspoon of sugar. The sugar is just fast food for the yeast. Normally the yeast is perfectly happy to just eat the flour, but remember I'm doing the proofing just to be on the safe side. I know it works because I had pizza yesterday. Never know. Okay, so I'm going to blend this nicely. And what I'm looking for is in about 4 minutes, no more than 10, there should be a little collar of foam on top here, and that will mean that my yeast is alive. And if it's alive, then I'm good to have pizza. For the rest of the ingredients, I wish I could say, oh yeah, you can just use whole wheat flour to make pizza, you'll be fine. No, I mean, maybe, but we don't like it. Okay, so what I do is, and at the restaurant, they don't use whole wheat either. If you order whole wheat crust, I can guarantee you that it's not 100% whole wheat, because it's really hard to get a good crust, and it takes quite a bit of effort to do that. So what I do is a normal crust recipe is about 3 cups of flour for that 1 1/4 cup of hot water. I hope my water is hot enough, but I know the yeast is good, so you have to believe me. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to put, so these are 1/2 cup measuring cups. And really this is something you don't have to measure obsessively unless you're trying to win a pizza making contest, which you're not, okay? So I've got 2 cups of all-purpose, and here I have whole wheat pastry flour, which is a little bit lighter. And this is not quite 1/2 cup. Let's see what we got. There we go. Whatever. Okay, that's about a cup. Don't be stressed out about making pizza. It's about relaxing, remember? So we're going to mix it with a fork. Here we go. I'm going to add just a wee bit of salt. Okay. And here, let's see if I can show you the bubbles. I hope you can see. Can
Yep.
you see?
Yes.
I poured it on the ground. Anyway, you get the idea. There's bubbles. If you didn't see them, you have to believe me. Don't be a Thomas, okay? So I'm going to put this in here. So again, if you're not 100% safe on your yeast, please make sure to wait to check, okay? But we're super busy people. We don't have time for that. Okay, I've added about a tablespoon of olive oil just to be fancy in Italian. Not absolutely necessary. So this is the no kneading approach to making pizza dough. And we have 5 minutes left. Doing pretty well here. And I'm just going to show you. Can you see the inside of my bowl in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be ugly. That's what I want to show you. it will not look like a super pretty, cool ball of pizza dough. It will look like a mess, kind of like I'm making seitan or something. What I'm going for is having well, not every, but most, again, we're working at 95%, 98% of my flour moistened with the yeast water concoction. Here we go. Always cook with clean hands, especially if you cook for other people. So here it is. It looks really ugly, and that is fine. I'm going to put a layer of saran wrap on it, and I'm going to put it in the fridge. And I'll have to do that after the show because my fridge is so full right now that I don't know how I'm going to do it. And it will stay there until probably Monday night for us, maybe Tuesday night. I'm not sure yet. But at that time, I'm going to plop it out, and it will still be ugly. Okay? So I'm going to plop it out kind of like this. I'm going to knead it. You don't have to do that right now. Okay? And right now it's super sticky. If it was still sticky like that in 2 days, I would add maybe a 1/4 cup flour. I don't know, maybe not even that much. Okay, and knead it for like 2 minutes, and it will be ready to make. There's a piece of carrot in there. It will be ready to make a really awesome pizza without having to spend like 5 minutes on the kneading. Okay, so that's what the cold fermentation does, is that it does the work for you in the fridge at cold temperature. The alternative, if I wanted pizza tonight, so keep in mind it's almost 2 o'clock here in the West Coast, I would put it in the oven, but not a hot oven. It has to be just a little warmer than room temp, so I just turn on the light in the oven and it keeps it, I don't know, probably at 75 or 100, probably 100 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And I cover it with a wet cloth that's been wrung really well, so it's not dripping into my pizza, but it allows it to rise. And by 5:30, I have the perfect pizza dough again without having spent too much time kneading. I knead for 2 minutes, and that recipe gives me 2 pretty comfortable medium pizzas. They're not huge, although if you wanted to roll them and make them super thin, but I prefer to just stretch them by hand, and I put them on my rectangular little baking sheets, and I pop them in the oven. And you have pizza, so you can add pesto, you can add pizza sauce that you've bought, and on top of your pizza, you don't have to put like pepperoni and cheese or whatever. You can put anything you have, so roasted vegetables. I'm going to turn off the oven here. Roasted vegetables are awesome, olives, mushrooms, even sometimes I make pizza with leftover curry that has cauliflower and carrots, and I use cashew cream for a topping. Pizza is just like flat bread, right? So you don't need to be too narrow-minded about either the shape of your pizza or what you put on it. And I'm just going to rinse my hands quick, take the stuff out of the oven, and ladies and gentlemen, we are done. I'm just going to taste the soup, but I turned off the element so that it stops boiling. So just to be cute here, I'm going to put in some ribbons of kale. I've turned off the oven, so I'm going to also take those out. That's really dirty. So you're not supposed to have this situation happen because you would have left the dough in the fridge for 3 days and it would not be so sticky. Okay. So just to give you a little view, these are the roasted vegetables. I have another full sheet of that. And let's have a look at the millet. It's cooked style. So here we have the cooked millet. It's really hot still. Pesto. And the soup, I take a little bowl out, and I always recommend tasting and adjusting seasoning. Maybe you need more salt, a little bit more salt, a little bit more pepper. But what I have here is a really chunky vegetable soup with lots and lots and lots of vegetables, but also chickpeas and a little bit of kale. And the kale is just going to, I've turned off the element, but it's just going to wilt into the soup. I'm not going to put too much because kale has quite the personality. And I believe it's been an hour, and all I have left to do is wash this pot, watch my baking sheets. That will be quick because I had parchment paper, and wash my blender and my cutting board. So I'm pretty happy. I have lots of good food for the week.
That's it. That's amazing. I'm gonna put us back to our talking screen. That's
You're
pretty
back.
remarkable. So while you
Were
were
you
while
just
you were
sitting there the whole time?
oh yeah, just I was like in your kitchen.
Love
So
it.
Charlene Black said, I'm a huge fan as well, and she's learned so much from you. And Daniel, when making the pizza, said, I should have known, but didn't know that proving the yeast is working was the origin of proofing dough. Makes perfect sense, though. And Marion now just said, wow, entertaining and informative. Thank you, Brigitte, which is fantastic. And we will, as we close out, post about the discussion you had with Daniel because he posted the link. So I'll make sure that becomes part of
Oh,
this as
good.
well. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let me show you the soup as a grand finale. And this is where I spilled the pot of soup. No,
Maybe a bowl
I'm
of the
not.
soup would make more sense.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, let's see if I have a
Oh,
clear bowl here. Yeah, there we go. Cute little bowl of soup. You call this a ladle or a ladle?
a ladle.
What do English people say? Ladle. There you go. So I
Ladle.
have a ladle. Yeah, you could have. I've used chickpeas and all sorts of garden vegetables. We like our soup chunky, so this is what it looks like. But yeah, the kale is going to wilt because the soup is still very, very hot. And so as soon as it's, cools off a bit, the kale will be completely cooked and no longer like fibrous and unpleasant to eat. And if you're feeding my daughter, then you could pull out the stick blender and just, a few times, and you would have a
Yes.
uniform looking soup. And there you go. You have really reasonable components. You will have lunches all week long if you like soup. You can have pizza on Monday or Tuesday night. Like, who has homemade pizza on Monday and Tuesday night? You, because you're so awesome. You've done your prep, and you can make those beautiful bowls with the millet and the roasted veggies.
That's awesome. And Daniel had the stew soup earlier this week and says fabulous. I mean, just so you know, you actually started cooking at 8 past the hour, and you have 4 additional minutes of cooking time because of course I took up some of that hour with the intro and your intro. So
Yeah, yeah.
you made note of the time that it was 8 past when you started. So, and for everyone else, just so you know, yes, that was the cooking time. Obviously, there's some prep, and most people don't lay everything out the way you laid stuff out. You just kind of move around your kitchen, just like you did. I'm very familiar with what you're doing, multitasking and this and that, and like sliding on the floor sometimes to get to like other parts of the kitchen. It is a fantastic way to cook, and everything can be like mixed together. Pizza with soup because it's bread like a sandwich. You get pizza with soup. The pesto can go even in the soup or drizzled on top. I like that the pesto had
Oh,
the
yeah.
walnuts for the fat as opposed to oil. So I mean that's and super super simple. Agree 100% about a Vitamix. Just like going over everything that you did, and I have all those vegetables in the house, and I think this is what's for dinner for me. So
Go for
it's
it.
like it's like absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for showing busy people that they can cook and have delicious food. And if they need more inspiration, you are the person to give it to them on a weekly or monthly or bi-weekly basis with this is what you do. You pretty much tell people what they can do. And you walk the
Because there's
walk. You show
nothing
them as
worse.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really obsessed about getting the steps done in a way that is the shortest possible time.
Yep.
When you get cooking, sometimes you can be in the kitchen for like 5 hours, and all you have is like a tray of roasted vegetables and a chili, and that's super disheartening. And you don't want to be that person. So just putting in, even if you're not following my meal plans, I recommend taking my meal plans because when I do, it's so much faster. But even if you're not, just sitting down for 5 minutes before you get started and thinking about the order of things, it will just save your life. So warmly recommended, and just come back anytime.
Yeah, that order of things doesn't just apply to cooking. It probably applies to every single thing you do in your life. So if you get it down with cooking, you'll probably get it down with working. You'll get it down with like kid rearing as best as you can. You get it down with, any hobbies or habits or whatever you have to think about
Totally.
the most efficient way, even with driving. I don't like to drive. I try to do the driving the most efficient way possible so that I'm
Yeah,
not driving all the way across town to go now the other way. So you just take a little bit of thought and you've saved potentially hours. So I'm aligned with you. It's exactly how I do like what I
yeah.
do, like in cooking and everything. So let's go over a couple of things that we have to go over, like your talk with Daniel. He said that it was a great discussion of both the reasons for and benefits from a more plant forward diet. We're more health focused, but we can't ignore the environmental benefits, which is awesome because it's all everything animals, the planet, the environment, and your health are all combined. And the interview, you can easily just go to this YouTube channel. What is the name of the YouTube channel again?
It's aging with freedom.
Aging with Freedom on YouTube. Just want to make sure we have that because the link, but you can just go to Aging with Freedom on YouTube. And Daniel, who I don't know, but please reach out to me if you want to be on the show. And because I'm always open to having other guests, has Aging with Freedom on YouTube, and Brigitte is on it. And that is pretty awesome. Well, I'm hungry. It's 5:08. I
Awesome.
was hungry
Let's do
before we
it.
started.
Well,
So
there you
I,
go.
I
I wish I could give you some of the soup for dinner because I have no idea now. I'll have to find a neighbor because I also did my normal prep, so my fridge is really like overfull. So I'll have to find a neighbor. If there's a neighbor watching at the moment, just reach out to me and come and get the bowl of soup.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me and being part
Thanks
of
for having
this.
me.
And you're fantastic. Like absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad that you decided to do this because I know the cooking part where you were like, I don't know, but I'm so glad you decided to do this. It totally encapsulates everything that you do and it's important for people as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to the next time.
All right, thanks Brigitte. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye. Well, everyone, thank you once again for joining Virtual Vegfest Live. What's today? Sunday? So I actually have no clue what's happening next week. So let's take a look. Hey, thanks, Daniel. That's awesome. Great show. Thanks for hosting. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having her on too. So next week, on Thursday, only one show next week. Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Kimberly from Did You Bring the Hummus? And also our host for our Monday fireside chat with Kimberly at 7 p.m. on Mondays, Eastern Daylight Time on Virtual Vegfest Live. It's coming on. So you get to know Kimberly a bit more. And then I don't have any talks for this weekend because I was thinking I might have an event. But I am going to an event because I'm going to the Triad Vegfest in Greensboro, North Carolina, and going to meet a new vendor who's a food truck coming from, I think, Colorado. But then we go into next week, and now in July and August, we're going to one day a week, and it'll be Thursday shows only because the events start to ramp up, and I might not be home for some of these weekend talks. So we start on Thursday with Anthony Masiello. So that'll be on the 1st of July. And then, of course, then there's a holiday, July 4th weekend, which, we don't need to set off fireworks, because you know what happens with fireworks? They scare the shit out of my dogs, and I like prefer if you didn't do that. So that would make my dog like much happier and us happier, because he crawls into our skin when he's scared, and I don't like when he feels that way. So that's my little toot there about maybe don't do fireworks, and just, or silent fireworks. Why don't we normalize those? So again, please be kind, wear your mask, please get vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, please wear a mask so that you don't infect others or make people sick that could potentially die from a pandemic virus that is still floating out there. And like I said, please be kind. Happy Pride, happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day, and I will see you on Thursday at our 7 p.m. time with Kimberly. Have a great one, everyone, and subscribe to Virtual Vegfest YouTube, and don't forget to enter our contests. Bye!